everyone, it's Faybae. Welcome to my first episode of Farming with Faybae, where we take a look at the different farms in Guild Wars 2 and see which one gives you the most gold for your time. This week we're taking a look at the notorious Istan farm. So if you're curious about how to make gold in Istan, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and stay tuned. So you made it to Istan and you want to learn how to make gold there. Great! It's a great place to make gold and it's one of my personal go-to farms in Guild Wars 2 currently. So let's get the technical boring chat out of the way first. The domain of Istan is the first map in Living World Season 4, so you need to have access to the story chapter called Daybreak, as well as Path of Fire in order to access it. If you need to grab that, I have an affiliate link down in the description box that you can use. Once you have Path of Fire, if you don't have the Living World chapter unlocked already, you can unlock it in the gem store for 200 gems. For future reference, all you have to do to get the Living World chapter for free is log in during its release while owning the appropriate expansion. You have until the next Living World episode comes out before you have to spend gems to unlock it. You don't have to have Heart of Thorns in order to access the domain of Istan, but just keep in mind that without it, you won't be able to glide or have access to Heart of Thorns masteries. Luckily, you can complete all of the Path of Fire content without having Heart of Thorns exclusive masteries. Okay, so now that you're in the domain of Istan and you have found a map with a tag, the farm is pretty simple. There are a lot of events that happen in the map, and different tags will focus on different events. Some will go for all of them, some will only do the Great Hall and Palawadan, which I'll talk about when we get there, and others will be so fast that they're constantly map hopping in order to maximize loot. Each tag and farming day is different, so I spent 3 days in Istan on 2 different classes with 3 different tags for different amounts of time to show you just what you can expect from your farming experience. I'll break each day down, show you the profits, and if you stick around to the end of the video, you'll see just what it takes to make over 200 gold in 1 day on this map. So day 1 I spent on my druid, mostly because she's my go-to for everything PvE, and she's pretty mobile with her staff. The first event that you see is the assault on the Great Hall, and it's one of the main event chains in Istan. Break through the gate, kill awakened adds, and then Captain Sutek spawns at the top of the stairs. Focus Sutek and then go to break the Fountains of Joko. The fountains will be your primary focus. The brainwashed recruits are secondary. If you spend all your time killing recruits, you won't get medal credit for the event. Much to my dismay. The final fight of this event chain is in the center of the Great Hall, where you fight Warden Amala. This boss fight spawns champion mobs at the start of the fight, and again when she reaches 75, 50, and 25% health. Stop at these thresholds and go to what you'll see as the NG turret corner and rotate around the room counterclockwise, or just follow your tag, in order to kill all the champs before retargeting Amala. A lot of people experience lag in this fight because of all the visual effects and need for constant movement, so it might help you to turn down your graphic settings if that's something that you have issues with. Helpful tip: Amala spawns a lot of clones of herself, and your tag will most likely call a target on the real one. If for some reason they don't, just look for the Amala with the purple ring around her portrait when clicked on. That's the one that you want to focus because that ring will only be around the actual boss. All other mobs can be ignored. You're going to be getting a lot of loot in this map, so make sure you have enough bag space before you get started. Or at least plan to stop at merchants every now and then. Save your Crocotite ore because you'll be consuming that later on, and make sure you don't just absent-mindedly click on salvage all, because that'll salvage all of your unidentified gear, which will end up being a big chunk of your profits. I found that out the hard way. Save all your bags until the end of the day so that you can try to keep your inventory from getting too out of control. The loot boxes in this map are called supply stashes. They do not require anything other than participation in the event to open. Another event commonly done in Istan by most commanders that I've seen is Achille, which takes place at the Astralarium. You should have all 3 of the waypoints on the map discovered before starting your farm, or you'll be running across the map on the spot. This event is really simple. All you do is protect the NPC as he adjusts the mirrors in 3 locations. Awakened mobs spawn and will usually die almost instantly. You want to make sure that you can at least tag the champion awakened mobs that spawn, because they are guaranteed to drop champion bags. In this map, the champ bags are the Palawadan phylacteries. Once Achille has collaborated the last mirror, a veteran mordant prosecutor will spawn. It's so squishy that it dies incredibly fast, but it rarely drops any loot, at least in my experience, so don't feel too upset if you don't get a tag on it. Next we have the Graveyard event, which takes place in Champion's Dawn. You don't have to have a high jumping springer to get up there, because there is a tunnel path that you can run through, and most people seem to run that path so you can find it easily. The Graveyard event is, again, really simple. All you do is run around and kill Awakened. That's it. It's not one of the more popular events, but it's good filler while waiting for other larger events to respawn. The Awakened die fairly quickly, so you want to be either mobile or have something that allows you to tag mobs quickly. Think about running the Labyrinth during Mad King's Day. If you're at the back of the Zerg, you're going to miss a lot of mobs. Some tags will also do bounties while waiting for events. I haven't seen that too often in my time spent in the map, but I did see it on day 1 of my farming this week, so I figured it's worth sharing. I mean, events are events, and bounties drop volatile magic, so you'll need that, so might as well do them if there's nothing else to do. Another event that's not officially an event is clearing the Great Hall. When your tag says clear GH, they want you to hop over the wall into the Great Hall and run around and kill awakened mobs. At this point in the meta, the gate isn't open, and the only other way to get into the Great Hall without a mount is to go to the back corners where you can presumably climb in, or get a nice mesmer to port you in. I always find this event to be a little boring and dull, and more often than not, I'll use this time to AFK and get a drink or clear my inventory if I need to. Especially on day 1 when I was playing on my druid, it's not the best for speed tagging, and think of the Labyrinth. Corpse caravans are another example of common smaller events that spawn as the meta progresses. For the caravan, you want to kill the Dolyak before it gets to the Great Hall. Pretty easy enough. Having CC on hand in order to stop the yak so you can DPS in one place is extremely beneficial. It's not mandatory if you have enough people, but for smaller groups you'll need to be able to break that bar. On screen now you'll see the Mordant Crescent Forces bar. Each event that you do will lower the bar and progress the Great Hall event. Once that bar is empty, the Mordant Crescent Gate event will pop. You'll be able to break down the gate and start the Great Hall event with Amala all over again. Something to note when you're clearing your inventory is, like I said before, not to hit that glorious salvage all button, because that will salvage your unidentified gear, and you need to keep that because you'll be selling those for gold later on. I've made this mistake a few times and lost out on a lot of gold, so just be mindful. I like to put all of my loot bags together at the bottom of my inventory where I'm not going to accidentally click on them. By far the biggest event chain, and the one that takes the longest in this map, is Palawadan. This is on a 2-hour timer and it lasts for 30 minutes. It kicks off at a quarter of the hour. There are a lot of events that happen in this chain, so you'll want to follow your tag closely because otherwise you'll end up missing out. Once you get past the gate, you'll be claiming the market and courtyard, killing all of the awakened that you can find. This is sort of like capping points, so you want to be in the circle to make sure that you tag champs and the big scavengers. Watch out for that washing machine swirly attack, because if you don't have enough health, you will get downed. Barrier helps absorb some of this if you actually have barrier, but otherwise you'll want to time your dodge just right to avoid it. It takes practice, but if you get downed, people are generally really helpful with getting you back up, so that's nice. As you can see here, there's sometimes a bug where the supply stashes are opened even though you haven't looted them yet. If you run off so that the chest isn't visible on your minimap and then run back, it usually resets and you can loot them. At the beginning of the meta though, like now, you might as well just leave them be. There are plenty of chests to loot at the end of the meta, and you have a maximum number of chests that you can loot anyway, so you'll be able to make up for any chests that you end up missing. You don't want to risk falling too far behind your tag just for 1 or 2 chests. You'll end up losing out on way more that way. The next step is to clear the courtyard, which is basically the same thing that you just did before. Follow targets, kill awakened, dodge swirly attacks, and you're good to go. Next is killing the 6 loyalist leaders. There's 2 masters, 2 heralds, a lord, and a lady. They're straightforward, and each one has a stash to loot once they're defeated. If you have a bunny, you can hop up to the 2nd level for the 4th and 5th bosses, but otherwise there are stairs that you can climb. You just won't get up there as fast, and Palawadan is very fast-paced. Be mobile, be fast, be efficient. Once the loyalists are dead, follow your tag out to the statue of Joko and just bash your head against it until it breaks. Grab the stashes and follow your tag to secure 2 more areas just like you did before. Grab any and all stashes that you pass along the way, and you're good. Next, you'll be destroying ships. There is an achievement for destroying all 3, so make sure that you do that in your course of farming, since you'll have a lot of chances to do it. What I personally like to do is fly out to a ship, land on it, and beat it up until it sinks. There are piranha in the water, so don't swim in it until the event is over, and if you're on the ground, be prepared to just die brutally because the Corsairs swarm the docks and everything else. Once the ships sink, you can quickly go and loot the docks area. There will be 2 stashes per ship that went down, and you'll have enough time to quickly get them before the next event ends. And that final event of Palawadan is defeating Archon Iberu. For this, you want to kill the ads because they heal the boss, and keep your squad members alive if you can help it. The faster you can get it done, the more time you have to loot and to do more events. And if your group is fast enough with the entire meta, your tag will sometimes have a second Palawadan map so that you can do the meta twice for twice the rewards and ultimately twice the gold. Remember that sometimes your stashes will be glitched, but just run off a bit so that they're off your minimap and run back. I have to do this at least once per meta, and it's always worked for me. Alternatively, you could waypoint to fix it, or relog, but that seems like a waste of time to me because you end up having to run all the way back or deal with load screens when it takes about 10 seconds to run a bit and then run back. So, running off so that it's off your minimap and then running back so that you can loot it, to me, is the most efficient and fastest way to fix this glitch. Once Iberu is defeated, you use the remaining time to loot the chests. They'll be easy to follow because they're generally near one another and visible on your minimap, but if they're not, you can open your larger map and you'll see all of the stash chests that are available to you. It's also pretty easy to follow the Zerg of people until you're used to the path that you're going to take. You can loot a maximum of 30 stashes per character per meta event, so if you miss some stashes before, that's fine. You can still only get 30 max, so loot as many chests as you can. Once you've hit the cap, the chest will vanish from your map, and you'll be good to either clear inventory or chill for a minute, or just jump right back into events. When farming, I like to get at least 1 Palawadan meta under my belt, and in just a 2-hour farming session, it's definitely doable. If you can dedicate more time to farming, then it'll be worth it. I just didn't have the time to do more than 2 hours of farming at the time of recording. Once you decide that you're done with farming for the day, head to the Shillon Docks waypoint and go to the volatile magic vendor. I personally don't bother with opening my bags in the silver waste for the extra magic find because I just don't have the time or the desire to keep them all in my inventory until I make it around to find a Vine Wrath map, so I open everything at the vendor. First I open the phylacteries because they give you more unidentified gear, then I consume all of the Kralkatite ore for extra volatile magic, which we're now going to use for buying trophy shipments. You can use the website gw2lunchbox.com to see which Istan shipment will give you the best potential profit at any given time, because the trading post prices do change. I usually just go straight to the trophy shipments. They're usually the most profit anyway, but not always. The shipments are 250 volatile magic and a single gold per box, so you do have to invest some of your gold in order to get them. But you make almost twice that back, so the more you can spend, the more you can potentially earn. Open all the shipments, sell your unidentified gear. I sell everything instantly unless the profit is drastically higher to simply list it, which it's usually not. I'm also just way too impatient to deal with it, and I want my money right now, so I sell instantly. Once the unidentified gear is safely sold, you can finally and safely hit that wonderful salvage all button and get rid of all the small loot that you got during the run. After I deal with the vendor, I go to a crafting station and I go to the refinement section and I start refining all of my mats. Don't make dowels, they're absolutely useless and a complete waste. I do this on Huntsman and Leatherworker, but anything that refines leathers or fabrics and metals or woods works just as well. You basically want to be able to craft the ascended mats, the spirit wood, Deldrimor damask, and Elonian leather. Once I've crafted my heart out, I collect everything I'm going to sell. Usually this includes the ascended mats that I've just crafted, or anything that I know is going to sell pretty well, like leathers or things like that. I also grab all of the T6 mats that I have because that's mostly what I got from the trophy shipments. If I have over a stack of something, I'm going to grab that and sell it also, because usually a stack of a certain material will net you at least a gold. This is where you need to use your judgment and decide what is worth it to you to sell. If you need certain mats for other things, then you'll obviously want to keep those, but otherwise just sell anything that you want to get rid of. So day 1 started with 24 gold and ended with 63. So in 2 hours I made 39 gold. Let's just round that to 40 because I was rounding the original numbers also. 40 gold in 2 hours, so 20 gold an hour went on my druid. Day 2 I grabbed my engineer because there are a lot of engineers that run Istan with their turrets and I wanted to see if this would make much of a difference. So I grabbed a build for turret engineers off meta battle, got a pair of pistols because that's just what I like to use when farming on my NG, and I personally like pistol 3 because it bounces off of foes and gets more tags on more things than the one I'm shooting at. One thing I didn't mention before is making sure that you're using magic find foods and boosters. Foods from Mad King's Day are pretty great, otherwise I'd grab some cherry almond bars, and upgraded guild halls will usually have 24-hour magic find boosters for free in their tavern. The events for Istan are going to be the same no matter when you're farming. The more you farm it, the more familiar you'll get with it. I noticed that when I was on my engineer, it felt like I was getting more loot. It definitely was easier to keep up with tagging everything, especially in the moments when you go to run around the inside of the Great Hall and kill Awaken between events. And I know that I had to clear my inventory a lot more, but then again, that might just be because I had a lot less inventory space than I had on my druid. Day 2 is basically the same as day 1, different commander, slightly different style of farming, and me trying to get used to running around on my engineer, but otherwise it was the same thing that I did the day before. I farmed for a little longer, this time for 3 hours instead of 2, but there was a bit of downtime because LFG stopped working in the middle of our farm, and there were some server issues. We only sat out for about half an hour or so before we decided just to stick with the map that we had and get things going again. I started day 2 with 64 gold and about 5,000 volatile magic. I also decided to get the leather shipment instead of the trophy shipment just to change it up a bit. And because I had more gold and magic than the day before, I was able to put more into it. Remember that the more you can put in, the more your potential profit will be. Since I bought so much leather, I was able to make 4 Elonian leather squares, but when I compared the price of the squares to the components used to make them, I realized that, at least on this particular day, it was more profitable to sell all the leather straight out rather than crafting them into the Elonian leather squares and then selling those. So that's what I did. At the end of farming, crafting, and selling, I had 101 gold, so a 37 gold profit, which breaks down to just over 12 gold per hour for those 3 hours that I spent farming. It's less than day 1, but I'm going to assume that that's partly to do with all of the downtime that we had due to LFG and servers. Day 3 I was on my engineer again and farmed for 3 hours. I started with 91 gold and 2,000 volatile magic. More of the same thing, with a different tag. This time I got to do 3 runs of Palawadan instead of just the 1 like the 2 days prior. Unlike the day before, I spent my volatile magic on trophy shipments instead of the leather boxes. Mostly so I could compare it to the first day where I did the same thing, but on my druid rather than my engineer. By the end of the 3 hours, I had 164 gold, making my daily profit 73 gold for 3 hours of work. And that breaks down to just over 24 gold per hour compared to the 20 gold per hour from day 1. This could partially be due to running more than 1 Palawadan in a farming session, but also having more gold and volatile magic to throw at the trophy shipments could be a contributing factor. Like I said before, the more you can invest, the greater your potential profit. While being on my engineer seemed to have been getting me more loot in the moment, the difference in my profits between my druid and my engineer weren't so drastic that I'd say that engineer is the way to go without a doubt. I will say that running on my engineer made me feel like I was contributing more, and I was less likely to AFK on the Rock of Safety outside the Great Hall on my engineer than I was on my druid. I felt like I was falling behind a lot on my druid and not tagging much at all. So that caused me to feel less engaged, and I was less likely to participate in the smaller events. So what does all of this mean for your bottom line? On average, Istan will probably net you roughly 18 gold per hour. If you want to make 200 gold in a single day, you can expect to farm this map for 12 hours in order to get that. Keep in mind that it depends on what you're starting with, and your magic find. Get your magic find as high as you can, and if you have the time, open your bags in the silver waste where you can get that extra magic boost after a vine wrath. Invest as much magic and gold into the trophy shipments as you can, because the more you invest, the more you'll get back. And you end up making almost twice your gold back on those trophy shipments alone. Realistically, if you spend all day or even just 6 hours farming Istan, you can pretty safely expect to make at least 100 gold if not more. So it's definitely a worthy farm. It's also got plenty of events to do, so it's not an AFK farm, and it's going to keep you moving and working. I would absolutely recommend this farm. So that's all I have for you regarding the Istan Gold Farm. If you have any questions, thoughts, or tips, please leave them in the comments down below, and let me know what your favorite farm is in Guild Wars 2 so far. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you'll be notified and kept up to date with all of my Guild Wars 2 content. If you haven't picked up the game or still need an expansion pack, feel free to check out my affiliate links in the description box to help support the channel. Stay tuned for another farming guide next month and regular uploads every Wednesday and Friday. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all next time. Bye!